Good morning, guys. Wandering Beast here. Welcome to a beautiful spring day here in Central Oregon. Hood's popped on the adventure bus. You can see it behind me. I'm kind of letting things cool off a little bit. I did run around, went into town and picked up a new serpentine belt for the old Powerstroke. And as the title says, we're going to put in a new alternator. You guys have been following the adventures for this bus and this build since the beginning. We had under voltage, mismatched batteries, and eventually a starter that failed. So like a lot of you guys, you get on, you Google, you research, you get on the internet, you try to figure out what people are using and what's a good deal for your money. So if you watch that video, we put in Odyssey AGM batteries. Those things have been rock solid champions. And then new to me was XDP, a diesel company. I went with their starter, and if you guys watch that video, you realize that like I put a lot of trust into this. I take this thing in the middle of nowhere to the backcountry. I do not want things failing on me. So fast forward years, and I still get comments on that video all the time asking, how is it holding up? Do you still like it? And yeah, still going strong. No worries, no issues. I have no worry about the brand, anything working and being reliable. So it's proven itself. So when it was time to upgrade the electrics, if you've been following those, we now have lithium ion battery bank. We've got a DC to DC charger, and I'm excited to upgrade the alternator. So of course, XDP is where I went. You know, they've got kind of a cool finish on their products, which, you know, adds to a little bit of a class. But moreover, it's just their components, their kind of reliability, and that's all I'm looking for. The alternator that is on this, it looks to be somewhat original. I've got the original maintenance records all the way, we're at 500,000 miles basically on this bus. And I have the maintenance records from the very beginning. And I don't recall ever seeing an alternator being one of those. So I do believe this is a stock original alternator. It is a 130 amp alternator, and it's been doing a good job. So I'm going to put in some screenshots here. Batteries are about half power. Driving around town, getting the belt today, and I was doing some experimenting with the solar and the alternator pushing in. You've got 25 amps coming from the alternator as well as about 15 from the solar. It was still early in the morning, not getting full sun at high noon yet. So that adds up to 600, 700 watts of charging power. The batteries were taking in it all, just soaking it in like a sponge like the lithiums do. Now I have the ability, the way I wired it, to click off the solar. So you're going to see there's now a full 50 watts, if you look at the bottom there, 50 amps, excuse me, of power coming from that alternator. Now it is a 130 amp alternator as the stock one, and I just not comfortable with that amount of power coming out of it all the time, especially if it's stop and go traffic. The way it works, guys, is your regulator on the back is trying to regulate that AC current into DC current, and if you're idling and you don't get a breeze by that, you can burn out your regulators. And so even if I don't use the full capacity of the 200 amps on here, this thing pushing out 50 amps is going to run a lot cooler than the stock one is trying to push out 50 amps. So like I said, the way I've got it designed is the DC to DC charger is 50 amps total. If I kill the solar, it's going to be all 50 amps of alternator. If they're both on, it divides it up 25 and 25. And then of course, if you turn it the other way, I can click off this and get as much power as I can from the solar. That's the way I've got it designed. But let's take a look at the alternator, and then let's get it in the truck, see if it fits. Now remember, yours may be different, but on an E350, airbox comes off that gives you access in here to the serpentine belt, which the tensioner is just below right there. So we're going to get this belt pulled off, and then that should give us access to this alternator. Still pretty warm right now. I tempted earlier, it was at like 170 degrees. And I don't know if that's sort of standard. It seems hotter than it usually is, and that's probably for the amount of power that it was trying to put out, that 50 amps right now. So I may let it cool off a little bit, take the belt off. These are 13 mils to get this off. Everything looks like it's going to line up. However, the folks at XDP have not put their alternator onto an E350 Powerstroke van version. So we're going to make sure this checks out. Well, I'm not really sure. Normally there's like a sticker on here, and I think I've Googled it before, but a little bit of Sharpie, and there's my serpentine diagram, just so I can get everything back on here correctly. Alright, the old belt wasn't giving me any problems, but you can see it's starting to get worn. It's quite a bit thinner than the one I just picked up at Napa. There's the new one going in. There's the number. You guys are looking for E350 Powerstroke. This is the single alternator, but yeah, it's definitely, you know, getting some checking, some cracking. Alright, old one is going in a Ziploc and dated, so I know when the new one came on. Honestly, you've probably watched my videos before, but 303 protectant's the only thing I really found that can recondition and soak in some rubber, so I give it a quick little spray, and it's just good peace of mind knowing I've got a backup belt if I need to. I will also use a little 303 on the new belt before it goes on. Hey, well, hello there. The video sort of just cuts out. We are a different day, a different shirt, maybe even a different hat. I'm relying on Black Rifle Coffee here to keep me going. Didn't get much sleep last night. Just got done with my pack test for wildland firefighting, as well as teaching a refresher course. So we're going to get this in. Why did the video just stop? Well, as I got it in and it looked like it mounted up just fine, I checked all the wiring in the bus. The E350 cutaway has a little bit larger gauge running around to the distribution box and stuff. I think I'm going to be happy with it. I do have some 2 gauge that I can put in there. So that is standing by if I feel like it's not a good setup with this much amperage. But the biggest thing was the old 3-pin connector did not match the new 3-pin connector. And in fact, on my stock here bus, I'll put in some photos, the middle leg of the 3-pin comes out to a separate little dongle and hooks up as a signal wire onto the alternator. That does not match what XDP has on theirs. A quick call to Dave at XDP and a few photos through emails and talking about it. I was going to go around town and just get the dongle, do some snipping. I just wanted to double check with him to make sure everything lined up and make sure what was signal wire with the new setup. And I will say it looks like everything is kind of opposite on here. I'll put in some photos of the new dongle, but he wanted to send me this out to make sure it was proper and done right and everything lined up. So he did his research. He overnighted it to me, which is pretty impressive. However, it was a Friday. Couldn't get anything out for the weekend, so Monday came out. I got it Tuesday. That's still pretty good customer service there. So let's get it in. I'm going to drink a little bit more coffee, and yeah, let's get going. All right, guys, old alternator is pulled out, but I wanted to show you kind of the electrics here. Main power coming off here, off the 3-pin terminal, ASI. The middle leg off that comes over here to this little signal wire, and I've got to get that to go to this 3-pin connector. And then, of course, power supply is over here. So the old 6-gauge connection is not looking real great. So went and picked up a couple new lugs, and we'll at least get some new lugs on there and see how the 6-gauge holds up to the higher amps. One of the things I've been using quite a bit here is just one of these hammered style crimpers, and basically because that way I don't have to pull this entire harness off the truck. However, I did not disconnect the battery yet, so this is a live wire, so I am going to use a board so that even as I'm striking that, it doesn't arc out on any part of the truck. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm going to have to round that piece off just a little bit so that matches kind of sits down in that alternator piece. Alright, if you can see, pretty good crimp. I'm going to put a little solder in there. Alright guys, well I just got off the phone with Dave at XDP, and he confirmed that this 3-pin to 3-pin is going to convert, that this signal wire is fine to hang here. So we are going to get this installed and get her back on the road. Alright, as I put everything together, I'm going to use a little bit of dielectric grease compound. Effectively, it's a grease that carries electric charge. I do believe it does help keep weather and corrosion and things out. A little bit better connection if you've got anything old or loose. Alright, well, as happens with some of these old connections, the little clip just broke off there, so I'm going to see if I can sneak on some heat shrink tubing. Alright, you can see it conformed nicely to the plug. That should help hold those two together. It didn't quite get as small. This is some 3-in-1. I'll put what I'm using down there, but I like the fact that it has adhesive, so there's actually a stickiness on the inside of that should create a good seal and keep those connectors together and keep them as one. I do have to pick up a little bit more split loom. I thought I had some extra, but I will armoring the 3 strands that go into there. But for right now, we are going to get this little project buttoned up. Looks like everything's lining up well. Alright, she is all tucked in behind the airbox there. One last connection that honestly I tend to forget quite often when I take the airbox off is the map sensor in here. Get that connected to the airbox and let's fire up. Alright, glow plugs off. She's a little cold, haven't started her in a few days. Let me read that. 12.9, 13. We go high idle. Right there at 14.3. Alright guys, well we're going to wrap that up here. The bus is all put back together. The voltage is looking great. I am completely out of coffee at this point. And so we're going to end it here. Now, don't call it a review because I just put it in. Call it an installation video, whatever you want. I will come back probably in a year or so, do an update on how it was like I did with the starter. I'll come back from the comment section and answer any questions you guys have. But stay tuned, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you want to follow adventures. We're not done doing the electronics quite yet on the adventure bus, and that's going to be a big component of how many amps it can put out and how it's doing. Now, something I failed to mention, each one of them are tested before they leave XDP. There's a proof of performance, right? XD56, 356 is the model number. It's 14.8 volts. Now at output idle, 2400 RPM, it's 135 amps. That 204 amp rating you were going to get at highway speeds, which was dynoed at 7500 RPM. This is a diesel. I'm never going to see 7500 RPM. So it's a little disappointing that you would dyno a diesel alternator and, you know, give the specs that's going to be a couple hundred amps when you're never going to see that. You know, the Powerstroke's probably at 3600 cruising speed on the highway. But knowing that the components are built for the higher amperage, I feel like I'm going to be getting a little more longevity out of it. I feel safer running that 25 or 50 amps through the DC to DC charger that we're putting on there. And again, I will come back and let you guys know if we have any issues. There is a 1-year unlimited mile warranty with XDP. And so far, like I said, maybe that conversion dongle should have been included in the box if they knew it was going on a Powerstroke. But when I talked to the guys, nobody had ever put it on a Powerstroke with a van. I don't know if those are any different. Alternators are pretty easy to get to on the F-Series trucks. Very easy to get to. Not too difficult here on the E-Series as well. And we changed the serpentine belt, upgraded some of the connectors, and we're going to keep an eye on the wiring. So stay tuned, guys. Please like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you down the road.
Thanks for all the love and support. You guys are amazing. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow the adventure on social media, and we'll see you on the road.